Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So this week's build, kind of cool. It's actually for an art show that's being hosted by Toy de Jour. And Toys on Tap reached out to me and he's kind of helping organize it. So the toy is themed Furby. And these are these old McDonald Furby toys. And I want to do a little mashup with a Jabba the Hutt that I found at Goodwill. And they're really kind of similar in shape. So I don't know. I think we can do something awesome with it. Come on, let's do it. Okay, so here's my Furby, and I gotta kind of figure out how to get this guy apart. Now, this isn't unique to me. I saw this from a YouTuber quite a few years ago, and I can't remember who it was, so I apologize. But a lot of times these McDonald's toys have these triangle screws, and if you use a little T7 screw, it'll take those right apart. So here I am, I got it apart, and I'm just kind of assessing what I have in here. I probably don't need the feet, I don't need that wheel. Definitely need the ears, and I love that little tuft of hair, so I'm going to save that and keep that so it doesn't get damaged. Now, I thought I need to get to the mechanism, and I was trying to cut the bottom part off, and I thought, wait a minute, it's probably easier to go from the top. Now, this was all glued and welded together, so I could not just use a heat gun and pop it apart. I had to Dremel it and really hack at this thing, so here I am just taking the top of the head off, and what I'm trying to do is get to this little base that swivels left and right, and then I can use that to glue my head on. So here I am, got that pretty much cleaned up, and I need to figure out where to cut this, so I just did a cut line at where the feet were. Now, when you're using a Dremel tool, make sure you wear eye protection because this will actually fling hot plastic right into your eyeballs, so you got to be careful with that. But I'm just kind of cleaning up this line, and then once I get this cleaned up, I'll just dry fit it together, make sure everything's looking good. And I'm liking where that's at, so I'm going to go ahead and sand this down just to give a nice, flat, smooth surface. Okay, now for these ears. They're adorable, but they're a little bit floppy, so I need to figure out what to do with those because I do want to fill all these gaps with some magic sculpt. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of CA glue and position the ears. I'm going to have the ears perked up a little bit because I think that's kind of a little bit more fun. So what I'm doing is just position the ears, hold them in place for a couple seconds, get the second ear, position it where I want it to be, and that'll work nice for me to be able to sculpt this. So in order to sculpt it, I'm going to take some Magic Sculpt. It's just a two-part epoxy, similar to Millie Putt or Green Stuff, and I'm just kind of putting the putty in just to kind of block all the larger holes. I'll come back and sculpt this all out a little bit later. For the arms, I was thinking maybe a peg system originally, so I just cut off the post, sanded it down, but instead of using that polystyrene rod, I thought I'm going to use some magnets, so I drilled a little hole, pressure fit some magnets in there, a little dab of glue, drilled a little hole in the side. Now there's really nothing for the magnet to grab onto, so I put a little bit of glue on the inside rim. I'll pressure fit the magnet in there, and just for a little extra security, I went ahead and took some hot glue and kind of backed that all up, just so it had something to back up against. This is pretty nice, but I do have some big gaps around the arm, so I'm going to have to come up with a solution for that. So Jabba the Hutt, he is this big kind of blobbish kind of guy, and he's got these huge rolls and creases on him. So I'm taking a little extra Millie Putt, just sculpting these lines and kind of making these creases. And it's actually really fun and not super difficult. Here I am throwing on a little double chin. I'll sculpt in some more creases. And the cool thing with Magic Sculpt is if you take a wet brush, you can actually smooth everything out. Here I am putting an extra little fold around his arm, and this is going to actually help hide that gap that I was just talking about a second ago. So again, some more creases. Double check that the arm still rotates up and down. Taking some old Millie Putt and just kind of fill in this hole here so I can actually glue a magnet in that I can articulate the head left and right, back and forth. Originally on this toy, the head faces forward, but I think I'm going to rethink it. I think I want to rotate that. So here is the Furby all sculpted out. I got the back here. You put the arms on. All the creases are hidden. I think it's looking really nice. And I'm going to put some eyelids on him. Jabba the Hutt has these huge fat eyelids, top and bottom, so I'm just taking a little extra Magic Sculpt and putting those on. At first, I wasn't sure if I should do this or not. I was like, I don't want to lose the spirit of the Furby, but I think this looks amazing. Now, I am going to have the face facing towards us like this, but that gives me a weird gap in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that, take a little bit extra Magic Sculpt, kind of just press it on there, and you guessed it, carve out some more lines. Now I got it primed, so I'm going to use this green. And I don't normally bust out my airbrush for my jobs just because I'm not super great with it, but it did help me give a nice smooth coat over this whole thing. And then I've got this flesh color that I'm also going to airbrush on here, again, just to kind of give the nice softness because it does have these soft transitions. But I will get my traditional brushes out and kind of go in where I need to make it a little bit more opaque. And I was able to just take a brush and almost using a dry brush technique, use that to kind of soften those edges. Now for Jabba the Hutt's eyes, they are orange. I originally painted them black, but I was like, oh, nope, I think they're supposed to be orange. So went in there with a nice little orange color. And once I got those all painted out orange, I did a little bit of dry brushing with a lighter tan color just to kind of bring out some of the highlights. And then for his eyeball, he almost has like these alligator type reptilian eyes. So just painting a really careful thin line, painting the outside, just doing some little details in there. And then once I got that all done, I took a clear gloss and just put that right over the top, and you can tell the difference. It looks really cool. Now, I wanted to make his throne, so I used this pink foam, and I used Super 77 to glue those together. Actually, Black Magic Crafts had a little video on that, and it worked out great. I was able to sand the edges clean, spacing out the blocking for Jabba's throne, and then just using a pencil to kind of score out the lines, and then using that pencil to kind of reinforce some of the detail, making it look like a kind of old cracked blocks that were pieced together. Using a little piece of aluminum foil to kind of give your texture, and some Mod Podge to cover the whole thing. The Mod Podge really is just a protection coat, so when you spray paint it, the spray paint doesn't dissolve and eat your foam. I put this little sand on there. In hindsight, I should have done it in the Mod Podge because it was kind of a mess, but looking pretty good. I'll go prime this. Once I got it primed, I did a couple coats of different grays on there, and then I'm doing kind of my black washes. This is actually a really fun part for me. I really love seeing the transformation of just this kind of gray block into this beautiful piece. Now, for Jabba the Hutt's throne, he has these little rancors that are on the front of the throne. Obviously, I'm not going to find those, but because it's Halloween, there are Halloween things all over the place. I found these at the Dollar Tree, and they're little skulls, and I thought these will be super cool to kind of use as those on the front of the throne. They do have these little rings through the mouth, so I thought, well, I've got these rings that I found at a yard sale, and so I drilled a little hole through and put those on. They look great. I'm going to use the same kind of greenish color that I painted Jabba the Hutt because I think it's going to give a cool little brass effect. Now, in order to get these in, I have to drill out some little holes, so I used that little template, and I drilled my holes, and I realized I did it on the back, so I have to fill all those with a little lightweight spackle, and now I got the front done. I repainted the back, no problem. But here I am just kind of gluing in the skull with some hot glue. Now this is a fun little thing. These little poppets, you can use them as a palette, and once the paint dries, it just pops right out. Again, I just saw this not too long ago, but I can't remember who I saw it from. I'm going to use this kind of bronze color to do a little bit of dry brushing, and the green with that bronze, it looks really, really cool. Now, Jabba the Hutt has this little carpet that he's laying on, or rug, and so I found this cloth at Walmart. It was in a little, they have a small remnant piece. It's like a buck something, and I'm just weathering this up by just layering on some different colors and kind of giving it some depth. Let's tatter this up and call it done. Okay, that was such a fun build, and I am like so excited to be part of this art show. This Furby show is going to be amazing. It's presented by Toys on Tap, hosted by Toy de Jour in Chicago. It's going to be October 13th at their shop. If you're in the area, go check it out. I'll leave some links below for their social media and websites. And make sure to check out all the other cool artists. There is some amazing work, and I'm just honored and privileged to be part of this show. It turned out so great. I am really, really pleased with how this thing turned out. So, without further ado, let's do some turnaround shots of this thing. And as always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.